Hello nerds! Thank you once again for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your week in nerddom, and we're switching things up this week. I'm gonna break this video into 5 videos and post one a day, so I've got something to be posting all week. And now you're watching the comic book portion of your week in nerddom. And in comic book news for this week's week in nerddom, we're talking about Grant Morrison's festive feelings, because he's got lots of them apparently, and in only Grant Morrison fashion. And then we're also going to talk about Salt Lake Comic-Con and a recent court hearing against them, court ruling against them, and so much more in comic books. Let's hit some intro music, and then we'll talk about it.
Quiet on the set, rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Comic book news. Man. So, let's get all the smaller stuff out of the way, and then we'll get to the Salt Lake Comic-Con thing, because I feel like that's going to be the biggest one. So, Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 just released its preview. It looks like it's going to be fantastic. So Donnie jumps a portal over to, and there's a lot more to the preview than this, but basically, Donnie jumps a portal over to Gotham, because he wants to train with Batman, because they're trying to stop a heist, or they're trying to stop a fight in the sewers, and Donnie screws up, and he feels like he needs more training, and he wants to get that training from Batman. So he jumps over to Gotham to train with Batman, and Bane finds a way to jump that portal back over to modern day New York, and chaos ensues. Shredder's in jail because of the events from the last Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which creates a power vacuum that Karai and the Elite Guardsmen are trying to fight to fill. And then when Bane enters the picture, he's the one that takes over and fills up that power vacuum. So it looks like the story is going to be very interesting. I'm super excited about that. We are going to move right along, though, and now we're talking Batman White Knight. We talk a lot about Batman. This one's very interesting, though, because the writer and artist, Sean Gordon Murphy, posted a bit on his Instagram talking about, it's the first 2 pages of issue #3. First 2 pages? I think it's the first 2 pages of issue #3. And it's talking about how he wants to change, effectively, he doesn't say it like this, but this is what it kind of translates as. He wants to change the perception of Harley, so people like me will stop talking so much trash. I am not a Harley fan. I am a Batman fan. I feel like Harley is a weak character. I feel like in this day of modern feminist ideology, that the fact that Harley has been clung to so heavily by women, by female comic book readers, is very bizarre to me, because she is such a weak character, because she exists solely because of the Joker, and just so much contradiction there. It seems that Sean Gordon Murphy, I don't know why I always say his 3 names, but he's got 3 names like a serial killer. Anyway, he wants to make this White Knight book about empowerment for women, which I find interesting. So his idea is the original Harley, the one that has not been, according to his universe and the world that he's writing, the one that has not been a part of the Joker's life since the whole issue with Jason Todd, that Harley is empowered because she is the support structure for the Joker, now calling himself Jack Napier. She is, let me read my note. She's the shining beacon in Napier's life. She is the reason why he wants to stay on the good and narrow and all of that. And then he's going to empower fake Harley, Marion Drews, who very much looks like the Harley Quinn from the Suicide Squad movie. She's drawn in that kind of style. He's going to empower her to become the new Joker, or she's going to call herself Neo Joker. So, I don't know, maybe this is going to change my take on Harley Quinn, because, like I said, I'm really not a Harley Quinn fan. I think she's a secondary or tertiary character that only exists, again, because of the Joker. So, if one of them becomes the Joker, then that's kind of cool, assuming it's written well. And then the other one is keeping the Joker clean and sober, also really cool. So, I don't know, maybe this will make me reconsider at least this version of Harley Quinn. I'm not going to go so far as to say that Harley is going to become like a new favorite character or anything like that, but interesting nonetheless. Next, oh yeah, Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison's writing a Christmas book. It's called Klaus and Crisis in Xmasville. The synopsis that's given online, and again, this one's in previews right now too, so you can definitely find it. It's really interesting read. Anyway, so the synopsis they have is: an evil Santa from an alternate dimension has founded an evil soda corporation that uses Christmas and Santa as a marketing tactic to build their fortunes. Only Klaus can defend the Pola Cola Corp and the zombie-like Santas that are in the evil Santa's thrall. Defeat. Not defend. Only Klaus can defeat the Pola Cola Corp and the zombie-like Santas that are in evil Santa's thrall. It looks really super tongue-in-cheek and all of the reasons why we love Grant Morrison. Brilliantly drawn by Dan Mora. It's going to come out in on the Boom Studios label, and it should at least be started actually next week, I think. I didn't write that down because, say it with me, I take bad notes. Yeah, okay. And then SpiderMan. This is the last bit before we get into Salt Lake. SpiderMan, Renew Your Vows. If you haven't read it so far, I haven't read it so far, but I saw it, and I might start reading it, because it's an quasi-alternate version of Spider-Man. So Spider-Verse was a great story arc. There's a big story thing. They're actually going to make a movie, an animated movie, that's going to be in theaters soon, and we'll get to that in the movies video. But Spider-Verse was a really cool story because we have all of these different Spider people. Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen, who now goes by Ghost Spider, which is weird. Because I was thinking it was like a Ghost Rider and Spider-Man mix, and when I read it, it was actually Spider-Gwen, just in a different name. Exact same costume, just a different name. Weird. Anyway, so this Spider-Man Renew Your Vows story arc, the first 12 issues are Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy? No, Mary Jane. Where is it? Yeah, Mary Jane. Okay. So it's Peter Parker and Mary Jane as their superhero versions, and they have a kid who's like 8 in the first 12 issues, and she's young, and she's growing up with this crazy household. And then, starting with issue number 13, which comes out soon, in a couple months. Again, I need to start writing out release dates. She gets older. It's 8 years in the future, so she's like 16. And she also has superpowers, so now we have a spider family inside the Spider-Verse with all of these other spider people, and just, whoa, lots of Spider-Man. But I feel like that's a great way to introduce new, diverse characters, is organically. We have this organic, this is a a child who was born with these powers who is female, and now we get to follow her and her superpowered parents. And that's organic to me, not just, oh yeah, by the way, Spider-Man's black, didn't you know? Or, oh yeah, by the way, there's like 17 female Spider-Men all of the sudden. That's weird, right? Let's read it. No, that's not how this works. You have to introduce them organically and build up their following, and then they get their own books, and then you make a lot of money because people buy it. People believe in it, and they want to get behind it. Anyway, really interesting story. If you haven't read the first 12 episodes, which I haven't, and I'm going to have to catch up as well, definitely go find them at your comic book shop. Local comic book shop is always the best, or if there's a Comic-Con close to you, then try and find them at Comic-Con, which brings us to our last point for the comic books video. Oh, so let's give a little backstory on this before we get into this verdict. San Diego Comic-Con International, San Diego Comic-Con, however you want to say it, they prefer just Comic-Con, apparently, because that's what they have copyrighted. Which is very strange because Comic-Con is short for Comic Book Convention, and that, if you can't, I don't know, it's very weird that they got that copyright approved. Anyway, in 2015, so 2 years ago, they sued one of the youngest Comic-Cons in existence, Salt Lake City Comic-Con. So Salt Lake Comic-Con, SLCC. Now, Denver Comic-Con has been around for approximately 3 years longer. It is not as big as Salt Lake Comic-Con, but it's really close. Salt Lake Comic-Con is number 3. Denver Comic-Con is number 4. New York Comic-Con has been around even longer than Denver even, and it is the second largest Comic-Con in the nation, second only to San Diego. So there's two very eligible suspects to go after that aren't Salt Lake, that are also using the Comic-Con name in their logo, in their title. But for some reason, Salt Lake, or San Diego, decided to go after Salt Lake in 2015 for copyright infringement because they used the name Comic-Con. Why? Stan Lee's Comic-Con is even closer in proximity, and I'm pretty sure has been in existence longer than Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con. So, I don't understand this. Why it started to begin with. Why San Diego went after one Comic-Con that's so new, when San Diego got the copyright in the 90s, and they've been around since the 70s, I believe. So they've been around for like 40 years, 50 years now, and they're just now going after somebody for using their Comic-Con name. For using the words Comic-Con, because that's not their name. Their name is San Diego Comic-Con, or even Comic-Con International, or even, I don't know, there's just so much other stuff that you could have done instead of... So that's the basis of this, is San Diego doesn't want Salt Lake to call themselves Comic-Con. Even though, also, there are approximately 140 other conventions in this country. That's excluding international. It's just in the United States. There are 140, roughly, other conventions that use the words Comic-Con in their name. And they went for Salt Lake. It seems very specific and pointed that they just don't like the Mormons. I don't know what it is. Okay, so, actually no. I think part of it is because most, not all, but most of the Comic-Con organizations, Denver Comic-Con, potentially New York Comic-Con, and I'm sure more than half of the 140, I don't know that for certain, so don't quote me, are all non-profit organizations. Salt Lake Comic-Con is the largest of the ones that are for-profit. So I get the distinct feeling that that has something to do with it. Not that that was in any of the court documents, not that there was really any hard evidence to support that theory. I have a stereotype in my head of people from California being a little lefty. Oh, if you're doing it for a non-profit, then it's totally okay. But if you're trying to make money on my name, then I'm gonna sue you so I can make all the money on my name that I want, and you can't. Even though it's not your name! Anyway, just this past Friday, so again, the 7th, they were in federal court. They were in front of a federal jury. And the federal jury found in favor of San Diego that Salt Lake was it was infringing on San Diego's copyright. Now, San Diego was suing for millions and millions and millions of dollars. I think it was something like $40 million they were suing for. The judge ruled that Salt Lake only had to pay $20,000. So, and knowing kind of vicariously Dan Farr, and having been to Salt Lake Comic-Con for 3 years in a row, $20,000 is really not a lot of money. That I seriously feel like that could be daily spending cash for Dan Farr. That's not a whole lot of money in that world, especially in the world of Comic-Cons where there's so much money just floating around all the time. So it's really a victory for San Diego just in the fact that they won, not because they've done any damage to the company of Salt Lake Comic-Con. Salt Lake still has plans for 2018's convention to use the words Comic-Con in the name until there is an injunction signed by a judge telling them to stop. Before that happens, they are going to the Copyright Office to try and make not valid somehow the San Diego copyright. If that doesn't work, then they are going to appeal because they have so much time to appeal the decision. Just a real sticky situation, and I'm gonna hand this one off to you guys because this is the last bit. Any of these, if you have anything to say about any of the points in your comic book portion of Week in Nerddom, then talk about them in the comments down below. But specifically, this one. Do you feel like San Diego has grounds to make this claim that they own the words Comic-Con? That they have a copyright, that is a copyrightable thing, the word Comic-Con. Yeah, so let's talk about that in the comments because I really want to hear what you guys think. Obviously, I don't think if somebody else, if another company in San Diego wanted to start a Comic-Con and call it San Diego Comic-Con and it wasn't their Comic-Con, then yeah, there's grounds there. But Salt Lake is not in California, not even close. It's not detracting from California. I feel like it's one of the ones that people go to gearing up to go to San Diego. That's how I'm doing it. I'm trying to establish a presence in the Comic-Cons that I can readily go to before I can even pretend like I'm going to be do anything good at San Diego, because that is a goal of mine, is to be able to do this show from San Diego Comic-Con and get some wicked cosplay and just have a blast at San Diego Comic-Con. Anyway, let's talk about it in the comments section. And that brings us to the end of this video. In Nerddom right here on Generally Nerdy. I am Generally Nerdy, and you can find me at generallynerdy.net. You can find me on Patreon if you want to help support the things that I do here. Patreon.com/generallynerdy. On Instagram at Generally Nerdy, all one word. On Twitter at Generally_Nerdy. Facebook Generally Nerdy or Generally Nerdy Photo. Just go to the website. It's the easiest way to find me. Go to the Patreon. Help me keep making this wonderful content for all of you fantastic nerds out there. There is going to be some new stuff on the channel soon, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm going to try and start what I'm going to call what was the name that I had? Nerdy House. Yeah, I can't remember. Nerdy. It's the cooking stuff and just general things around nerd life and things like that. So, that being said, thank you again for watching. I do have to remind you guys always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.